Arrival of the arrogant diplomat. The night sky above New York was calm until the stars began to move. People stopped on the streets, pointing at a bright silver shape cutting across the darkness. It was not a plane, not a meteor. It was a starship, smooth and sharp like a blade, glowing with cold white light. It slowed down, turning in perfect silence, then descended toward the United Nations building. Sirens wailed, helicopters swirled in the distance, but no one dared to get too close. Everyone knew what this was. The alien diplomat had arrived. Inside the United Nations hall, world leaders were waiting. Men and women in suits whispered nervously. Cameras flashed. Reporters whispered to their microphones. At the far end of the hall, the great double doors opened. A tall figure walked in. Her name was Carell. She was not human. Her skin shimmered like polished metal. Her hair was a cascade of silver threads. Her eyes glowed faintly blue, cold and sharp like ice. She wore a long, dark robe, decorated with symbols from her world. Every step she took was slow, as if she owned the place. She stopped in the center of the hall and looked around. Her gaze was not friendly. It was the look of someone judging a piece of art and finding it cheap. Carell raised her chin. Her voice was soft, but carried across the room like music wrapped in steel. "People of Earth," she said, "you are curious creatures." The translators repeated her words in dozens of languages. She smiled faintly, but it was not a warm smile. It was the smile of someone who thought they were speaking to children. She began to speak of her journey across the stars. She spoke of her people's great cities floating above oceans of liquid crystal. She spoke of their starships that could cross galaxies in a single lifetime. And then she compared humanity to a young species still playing with fire. Some lead, or shifted uncomfortably in their seats. Others frowned. Carell did not care. Her voice grew sharper. "Your tallest buildings," she said, "are like the nests of your ants. Your ships crawl through space like insects in mud. Your weapons, amusing but useless against true power." The hall went silent. Everyone could feel the insult in her words. Some looked angry, but no one spoke. Only one man seemed strangely calm. Dr. Elias Cole, a human scientist sitting near the back of the hall. He was young compared to the other leaders, with a simple gray suit and sharp eyes. While others clenched their fists, he smiled. It was not the smile of someone amused. It was the smile of someone who knew something no one else in the room knew. Carell noticed him. She tilted her head slightly. "You," she said, pointing with a graceful silver finger, "you are not angry." Dr. Cole stood up slowly. "No," he said simply. His voice was calm, almost friendly. Carell's eyes narrowed. "Do you agree with me then?" she asked, her voice like a quiet blade. Dr. Cole shrugged lightly. "I think you don't know everything," he replied. Carell gave a short, amused laugh. "I have seen your world from orbit," she said, "and I have walked in your cities today. You hide nothing worth fearing." Dr. Cole's smile grew just a little. He leaned toward the human translator sitting beside him and whispered something. The translator's eyes widened in shock. He turned to look at Dr. Cole as if making sure he had heard correctly. Dr. Cole only nodded. The translator swallowed, then whispered back in disbelief. Carell saw this exchange. Her curiosity sparked, but she did not show it. Instead, she turned back to the leaders. "Your people will be given a place in the Galactic Order," she announced. "A small place, but one fitting your level." Her words echoed across the chamber. Some leaders looked down in shame, others in anger. Dr. Cole, however, kept his gaze locked on her. In that moment, Carell realized something unusual. This man was not afraid, and more importantly, he was not impressed. Outside, the alien starship waited silently, its hull reflecting the city lights. Inside, the air was heavy with unspoken tension. Carell's mission had been simple: deliver the message, establish dominance, return home. But now, for reasons she could not yet explain, she found herself wondering, why was this human smiling? And what had he whispered that made another man's face turn pale? The mockery. The hall felt colder now. It was not the air conditioning. It was the weight of her words. Carell stood like a queen addressing her servants. Her eyes roamed across the leaders of Earth as if she were choosing which of them was the least disappointing. She walked slowly around the circle of seats, her metallic robe brushing the carpet. Each step echoed like the ticking of a clock. Her voice, smooth but sharp, filled the space. Your history is filled with war, but even your greatest battles are like children fighting over toys, she said. Your science crawls forward, slow and clumsy, while my people leap across stars. Some leaders shifted in their seats. Others looked down. One man clenched his jaw so hard his teeth ached, but no one interrupted her. Carell reached the main podium and placed her long silver fingers on it. She looked down at the human flag hanging beside her. A curious symbol, she said, but symbols do not make you strong. She tapped the podium gently, a small metallic sound. Your greatest ships, she continued, would be museum pieces in my world. Your weapons could not scratch the paint on our smallest patrol craft. Laughter rippled from the alien aides standing near the walls. It was not the laughter of humor, it was the laughter of cruelty. Dr. Cole remained still. His hands were folded, his eyes fixed on her. Carell saw him again and paused for a heartbeat. Her instincts told her to ignore him, but something about that quiet smile gnawed at her mind. Tell me, scientist, she said suddenly, what is it that amuses you so? The hall turned toward him, as if pulled by invisible strings. Cole leaned forward slightly. You talk about our weakness, he said softly, but you've only seen the surface. Carell's lips curved in a slow smirk. And what lies beneath the surface of your world? More insects? She asked. Cole didn't answer directly. Instead, he looked at the translator again and whispered something short. The translator froze. His face went pale again. He hesitated as if the words were too dangerous to repeat. Finally, he leaned to Carell and murmured the message in her language. Her eyes flickered, just for an instant, something that could have been surprise. But then her smile returned, sharper than before. You think you can frighten me with words, she said, stepping closer to him. Cole didn't move, didn't blink. I'm not trying to frighten you, he replied. I'm just telling you the truth. Carell tilted her head, her glowing blue eyes searching his face for fear. There was none, only calm and something else, something she could not read. Her voice grew louder, almost a roar. Truth. The truth is that your kind has no place among the stars without permission. The alien aides clapped softly in approval. Carell turned back to the hall. I have seen your oceans, your cities, your skies, she declared. They are beautiful in their way, but fragile, so very fragile. She let the words hang in the air like smoke. One storm, one asteroid, one war, your world could burn. Cole's smile faded just a little, but his eyes stayed locked on her. You should see what happens, he said quietly, when fragile things fight back. The translator looked between them, confused and nervous. The leaders of Earth were holding their breath. Even the alien aides stopped smiling, sensing a shift in the air. Carell leaned on the podium again. We will see, human, she said, her voice slow, deliberate. Perhaps you will show me this hidden strength. Cole stood, buttoning his jacket as if preparing to leave. You'll see soon enough, he replied. Then he walked toward the exit. Every camera in the room followed him. Carell watched him go, her smirk still in place, but her eyes no longer as calm as before. Outside, the alien ship hovered in the clouds. Its shadow stretched across the city like a warning. Carell stood in silence. But inside her mind, questions began to form. What had he meant? What had he whispered that made her aide's hands tremble? And why? Did she suddenly feel the smallest spark of unease? A strange invitation. The meeting ended without applause. Leaders filed out in uneasy silence. Carell stood near the podium, speaking briefly with her aides in a language no human could understand. She looked confident on the outside, but the name Elias Cole now echoed in her mind like a quiet drum. Dr. Cole did not leave with the others. Instead, he approached her slowly, hands in his pockets. Her guards moved to block him, but Carell raised one silver hand. Let him through, she said. Her voice was calm, but her eyes studied every movement he made. When he was close enough, Cole spoke in a low voice. There's something I'd like to show you. Carell tilted her head slightly. Another speech, or perhaps one of your primitive machines, she said with a faint smirk. No, Cole replied. Something important. He handed her a small black card with no markings except a glowing red line down the center. This is an invitation, he said. Carell looked at it without touching. An invitation to what? Cole's answer was simple: to see the part of humanity you've never met. The words were plain, but they felt heavier than they should. Carell's instincts told her this man was dangerous, not because of weapons, but because of certainty. She almost refused, but something inside her whispered that if she turned away, she would always wonder what she had missed. Where? She asked. A secure location, Cole replied, not far for someone who can cross galaxies. Carell gave a small, humorless laugh. Very well, human, she said. Show me your secret. The transport was small and silent. It lifted off from a hidden rooftop pad and headed east. The city lights faded into darkness as they crossed the ocean. Carell sat in the cabin opposite Cole. Her eyes glowed faintly in the dim light, watching him the way a predator watches unfamiliar prey. You could be leading me into a trap, she said casually. You could be leading me into one, Cole replied without looking away. For the first time she found herself smiling, not the mocking smile she used on the leaders, but something sharper, more genuine. Hours passed. Below them, black waves stretched endlessly. Then, on the horizon, Carell saw it. An island, small but bristling with towers and antennae. Strange metallic structures rose from the water like the bones of some giant sea creature. Her gaze sharpened. This place is not on your maps, she said. No, Cole replied, and there's a reason for that. The craft landed on a steel platform. Armed soldiers stood waiting, their uniforms unmarked. Carell stepped out, her boots clicking on the metal. The air smelled faintly of salt and something else. A low hum vibrated under her feet. She looked toward the largest structure. Hangar built into the cliffside, it was massive yet strangely quiet. What is this place? She asked. Cole only gestured toward the hangar doors. You'll see, he said. As they walked, Carell noticed the soldiers staring at her with the same expression, half curiosity, half defiance. She was used to fear, but there was none here. Inside the hangar it was darker, colder. The sound of machinery echoed faintly. Then the lights came on, one row at a time. Carell stopped walking. Before her stood a shape so large it almost touched the ceiling. Sleek, black, and humming with a strange blue energy. It was a starship, but not like any she had seen before. Its surface seemed to ripple faintly as if alive. Her voice was barely a whisper. This is human? Cole stood beside her, his eyes fixed on the ship. Project Titan, he said. It's not finished, Carell said, recovering her composure. I can see the incomplete systems. It doesn't need to be finished to prove something, Cole replied. What is that? She asked. That we're not as far behind as you think. Before she could answer, a deep rumble shook the floor. Dust fell from the ceiling, and one of the soldiers shouted into a radio. Carell's hand went to her side, ready to call her guards. Cole didn't move. Another tremor hit, this one stronger. From somewhere deep in the base, a metallic roar echoed, long and low, like a living creature waking up. Carell turned toward Cole sharply. What was that? He smiled just a little. You'll see, he said, the big surprise. The tremor faded, but the air in the hangar felt heavier. It was not just the dust in the air, it was the strange feeling that something deep under the island had just woken up. Carell scanned the walls, noting emergency lights flickering to life. Soldiers moved quickly but without panic. That alone unsettled her. These humans were not afraid of whatever had just moved. Cole was already walking toward a control station. Follow me, he said without looking back. Carell's instincts told her not to, but curiosity overpowered. To caution, they entered a glass-walled elevator that began sinking into the ground. Through the walls, Carell saw massive tunnels carved into the rock. Pipes the size of starship corridors pulsed with blue energy. Her voice was quiet but sharp. You are hiding more than a single ship here. Cole gave a small nod. You'll understand soon, he said. The elevator kept sinking, deeper than any human facility she had seen. The pressure in her ears changed. They were going far below sea level. At last, the doors slid open. Carell stepped out into a chamber so vast she could not see the far walls. The roof was supported by black steel arches wider than city streets, and in the center was another ship. No, this was bigger than a ship. It was like a floating fortress, suspended above a pool of shimmering blue liquid. The liquid glowed faintly, lighting the room in a ghostly haze. Carell's steps slowed. This is not like the Titan above, she said. No, Cole replied. This is older. She turned to him sharply. Older? You built this before Titan? Cole shook his head. No, Carell, we didn't build it. The words hung in the cold air. Carell looked back at the massive vessel. The surface was dark, almost black, but parts of it were covered in patterns she did not recognize. They were not human. They were not from her people either. A faint vibration seemed to hum through the floor. The ship wasn't just sitting there. It was alive, or close to it. What is it? She asked. Cole's gaze never left the vessel. A relic, he said quietly. We found it deep under the Pacific, buried in the crust. We think it crashed here millions of years ago. Carell's throat tightened. Her mind raced through possibilities. No record of such a vessel existed in her empire's history, if her people didn't know about it. That meant it belonged to someone even older, the glowing pool beneath the sun. Hip rippled. Carell took a step back. You said you would show me humanity's strength, she said. This is not human. Cole finally turned to her. No, it's not. But now it's ours. A sudden alarm blared across the chamber. On the far side of the room, one of the vessel's black panels began to open. Blue mist poured out, curling across the floor like fog. Soldiers raised their weapons, aiming at the opening. Carell's voice hardened. You woke it up? Cole didn't answer. The hum in the air deepened into a low, bone-shaking sound. From inside the vessel, something moved. Heavy, deliberate footsteps echoed, metal on metal. The sound was too slow to be human, too precise to be random. Carell's instincts screamed to retreat. Her people's military manuals were clear. Unknown alien technology was never to be approached while active. But here she was, standing beside a human who looked like he was waiting for an old friend to arrive. The shadow grew larger in the mist. A figure stepped out, taller than Carell, armored in the same black metal as the ship. Its eyes glowed like molten gold. It stopped, turned its head slowly, and looked directly at her. She felt its gaze like weight pressing on her chest. Cole's voice broke the silence. Meet the reason humanity isn't afraid of you. The accident. The armored figure stood motionless. Its golden eyes scanned the room like it was reading every person's thoughts. Even the soldiers, trained for the worst, shifted uneasily. Carell felt something she hadn't felt in years. Pressure, not from the air, but from presence. This thing was not alive in the way she understood, yet it was not dead either. The hum from the ancient vessel grew louder. Cole took a step forward, completely unarmed. You're not scared? Carell asked sharply. Why would I be? Cole replied, his voice calm. This is our guest. The figure slowly raised one hand, palm open. Carell tensed, unsure if it was a greeting or a threat. Then the floor vibrated again, not from the ship, but from somewhere above. A voice crackled in Cole's earpiece. Sir, minor tremor on the upper platform, nothing critical. Cole nodded, unconcerned. Carell frowned. On her world, nothing was minor when it came to military assets. Another tremor, stronger this time, rattled the chamber. One of the walkways above shook and a metal stool rolled off the edge. It fell, bounced once on the platform beside them and slid toward the glass floor. Carell instinctively stepped back to avoid it. Her boot hit something, hard. She stumbled, lost her balance, and before she could correct herself, she fell backwards. The world slowed. She landed, directly on Cole. Both of them crashed to the floor in a tangle of limbs. The soldiers froze, unsure whether to react or pretend it didn't happen. Carell's face darkened. On her planet, such contact was considered deeply disrespectful. She pushed herself up with surprising force. Cole winced but didn't move to stand. Instead, he laughed, low and amused. Is this funny to you, human? She snapped, her voice icy. Cole's smile widened just a little. Only because it's the first time I've seen you off balance. Her glare could have cut steel. She stood brushing the dust from her robe. The golden-eyed figure hadn't moved, but Carell could feel it watching. It was almost as if it understood the awkward moment and was silently judging them both. She took a step toward Cole, lowering her voice so the soldiers couldn't hear. You play games while showing me dangerous technology, she said. Games? Cole replied softly. I'm just making sure you remember this moment. And why would I? She demanded. Because, he said, when the real danger starts, You'll wish the worst thing that happened was sitting on me. Before she could answer, the chamber lights flickered. The golden-eyed figure turned its head toward the far wall. From deep inside the ancient ship, a low metallic groan echoed, longer and heavier than before. Cole's smile faded. That, he said quietly, isn't part of the demonstration. A cold shiver ran down Carell's spine. The relic wasn't just waking up, it was reacting to something it recognized, and whatever it was coming closer. The revelation. The chamber shook again, not from a tremor this time, but from something inside the ancient vessel shifting. The golden-eyed figure stepped forward, its movements slow but unnervingly precise. Its gaze never left Carell. She felt her pulse quicken. It wasn't hostility, it was recognition. Cole stepped between them. Easy, he said quietly, as if speaking to an animal that could tear him apart. The figure froze. For a moment, the only sound was the low hum of the alien engines buried deep in the floor. Carell's voice was low. You didn't build it, you said. That's right, Cole replied without looking at her. Then why does it listen to you? Cole finally turned. Because we've been speaking its language for years. He walked to a nearby console, his fingers moving across holographic controls. The lights in the chamber dimmed. A massive projection filled the air. Star maps, ancient symbols, alien script. Carell's eyes widened. She recognized none of them, yet something about the patterns made her skin prickle. Cole pointed at one of the oldest-looking symbols. This isn't human, he said, and it isn't yours. Carell folded her arms, hiding her unease. Then whose is it? Cole looked straight at her. We don't know, he said, but it remembered you. Her eyes narrowed. Impossible, she said sharply. My people have never encountered such a thing. Cole's expression didn't change. Maybe your people did before your history started. The golden-eyed figure's head tilted. Its voice finally came, deep, layered, mechanical, yet alive. It spoke in a language Carell had never heard. The sound alone made the hairs on her neck stand. Cole tapped the console, and a translation appeared in Tium. Here, hunter species detected, it read. Carell's heart skipped. It wasn't looking at Cole when it said it. It was looking at her. What does that mean, she demanded. Cole's voice was quiet, almost careful. It means it remembers your people not as diplomats, not as explorers, but as predators. Carell took a step back. That's a lie, she hissed. Is it? Cole replied. Because if it's right, maybe you're not here by chance. Her earpiece buzzed. It was a private channel, her own fleet orbiting Earth. A cold, clipped voice came through. Carell, new orders. Destroy the human facility and everything inside it before they can activate the relic. Her eyes stayed locked on Cole. Your people mean to use this, she said. We already are, Cole replied, but not in the way you think. The golden-eyed figure stepped closer. Carell could hear the weight of its footsteps, each one deliberate. You could destroy this place, Cole said, but then you'd never know what it was built to fight. Her breath caught. Built to fight? Cole's smile returned. Yes, Carell. The galaxy you think you know is about to get a lot smaller. The twist ending, Carell's fleet's voice in her ear repeated the order. Destroy it now, before the humans activate it. Her gaze stayed fixed on Cole. He didn't look worried. That, more than anything, made her uneasy. The golden-eyed figure took another step forward. Its shadow fell over them both. From somewhere deep inside the relic, a pulse of blue light rippled out. It wasn't an attack. It was a signal. Cole glanced at the projections still floating in the air. New symbols appeared, faster this time, filling the chamber. Carell realized they weren't random. They were coordinates. Where is it sending them? She asked sharply. Cole's answer was a whisper. To everything else like it. The words hit her harder than any insult she had given him. There are more? She said, her voice almost breaking. Cole nodded slowly. This one was asleep, he said. What happens when the rest wake up? She demanded. His smile returned, but it wasn't mockery this time. That depends on whether you're standing beside us or in front of us. Her earpiece buzzed again, urgent. Carell, confirm target destruction. She hesitated, her silver fingers hovering over her communicator. The figure's golden eyes locked with hers. For the first time, she felt something strange, like it was studying her not as an enemy, but as a choice. A low vibration grew beneath the floor. The ancient ship's hum became a roar. Screens lit up across the walls, showing a view of space far above Earth. Carell's eyes widened. 3 new blips had appeared on the edge of the solar system. They weren't human ships. They weren't hers either. Cole's voice was steady. They heard the signal. The blips moved faster. Her fleet's voice broke through again, this time panicked. Unknown contacts incoming, moving at impossible speed. Static swallowed the rest. Carell looked at Cole. "You planned this," she said quiet. "No," he replied. "I prepared for it." The golden-eyed figure turned toward the screen. Its voice came again, low and heavy. The translation flickered in the air. War protocol initiated. The floor shook violently. Somewhere above, alarm screamed across the base. Carell clenched her jaw, her decision burning in her mind. Destroy the relic and weaken humanity, or join them and face something even her empire might not survive. Cole stepped closer. "You wanted to see humanity's true strength," he said. "Now you'll see if we survive long enough to use it." The screen zoomed in on the approaching ships. Their shape was wrong. Too organic, too alien even for her. She felt her heart pound. For the first time, Carell was not thinking about pride or insults. She was thinking about survival. The chamber lights flared bright white. The golden-eyed figure raised its arm. The ancient ship beneath them rumbled, engines roaring like the ocean itself. Outside, the sea began to churn. Spiraling around the island, Cole's voice was almost a whisper. "This is where the real story begins." The last thing Carell saw before the chamber doors slammed shut was the first of the unknown ships breaking into the solar system, and it was coming fast.